Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the RationalInvestor.com's daily brief. That's on the weekend. We call it the Broiler Chicken Show. Oh boy, what a challenging day. Of course, I don't think this is any of your concern, but I've had a couple of hurdles here today, and unfortunately, one of the big ones that there's just nothing we can do about is the place that we happen to be staying at here in Missouri right now. Today has the worst internet possible. Boo, hisses, boo. So I wanted to at least get something on the site for you guys to chew on and the public to chew on. So had to record this on my computer, and then hopefully we can upload this to YouTube later on, and at least you have something to look at. So, without further ado, let's get going. Um, have a bunch of screens here all populated, so hopefully we can just sort of walk through these screens and then I'll send you good people on your way. Question is, where is my mouse? Oh, there it is. All right, so once upon a time, actually, I'm really enjoying, I got to tell you, my little new page that I put together, Brian's page. And I did help Cotter when I was with him in Montana there a week or so. God, it feels like a week ago. It's probably only about 3 or 4 days ago. But our breadth picture here, I think, gives us a pretty good idea what the heck's going on in the market. And interestingly enough, I'm seeing this quite often. Sure does look like crypto is leading the market here. So you can see how crypto came down, put in a bit of a bottom, jumped up smartly, a bunch of names started spitting up fast buy signals. That's where the fast moving average crosses above the DI. And so much so that actually we broke above the 50 line. So more than half of the markets that we're following have issued fast buy signals, so lower time frame buy signals. And the medium term index, which I would have preferred, to be honest with you, had worked its way down into oversold. Then we know that we would have a long term secular bottom. I don't think we do. So as a result, enjoy the bounce and enjoy the rally while it lasts. But unfortunately, as you all know, market has a nasty habit of topping out or bottoming out right around my birthday. And unfortunately, I don't like the fact that we jumped up here so violently into my birthday, because normally the seasonal pattern is that these markets like to bottom. Let's call it the end of June, beginning of July, usually around that July 4th holiday weekend. And unfortunately, I think you can make the argument some markets, indeed, like the bonds now, oh boy, have actually gotten themselves back overbought again on the medium term, as well as the country funds and the S&P 500. Market's kind of setting itself up for some sort of punch in the nose here. I really don't like what I'm seeing. Having said that, as we said, crypto often leads. You notice that most of the international currencies have gotten really beat up here versus the US dollar. I would expect that this will turn back up. It will follow crypto's path if crypto, of course, continues to work its way higher. Um, they always say the currencies lead everything, but in this case, I actually think, crypto might actually be leading even the currencies. So, over the near term, let's call it maybe, I don't know, a couple weeks or so, probably should see some sort of bottom in these international currencies at the top of our index. And that'll sort of open the floodgates for risk to come back on in the market. Um, so interesting mixed bag. Crypto has enjoyed a bit of a rally here. I might even argue maybe some indexes, including Bitcoin itself, will look at. Kind of looking like it's bumped up against resistance here, so we'll see that in a bit. Commodities still going sideways. Interesting to see the commodities, though, are trying to base out here. If we do actually have a situation Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, where you see commodity prices jump up smartly, you might have a very wide double bottom come in here on the fast. And if we push back above the slow, obviously, That means that commodities are on full on bull. We'll see how that goes. Only time will tell. Not overly impressed with the stock market, to be honest with you. In the near term, price actually is coming off here, and we're issuing more short-term sell signals than buys. We're back below 50 here comfortably. And we also have market structure here working its way down. You can see the same things happening on the country funds. So, and it does make sense to me. I mean, given the fact that another part of the world has flared up into all-out, war, killing. That's not exactly the backdrop for let's go make a bunch of money being capitalists and selling products to these good people. So, I mean, I have no idea how any of this stuff's going to play out. Does anybody? But my co pilot today was telling me that Pakistan is actually declaring victory. We beat the Indians. Let's see what the Indians have to say about that. And quite often with these wars with Pakistan and India, and it just becomes almost like a shouting match. Uh, anyway, we'll see how that goes. So I'm a little concerned with what I'm seeing here, to be honest with you. Haven't really seen any new hunting buys come in here. Unfortunately, we have a bit of a problem with our data, so we are getting some hunting buys, sixes on the weekly commodity trend survey. But unfortunately, I don't think that that's real. Let's see. Can we zoom out here? How do I zoom out on this silly thing? How did I used to do that? Like that? Hey, there we go. I actually remember how to use this stuff. There we go. Looks like we got a whole bunch of hunting cells, so that's not so good. No, outright. Actually, we have one actual outright sell where the market is substantially higher than its 50% level and the moving averages are pointing down. Although, because of our issues with data, you're going to have to manually, if you do subscribe, you're going to have to manually pull up the data. What does that look like? Well, the cool part about it is actually this is the entire S&P 500 market, and there you go. Yeah, that guy is erroneous data. That guy's erroneous data. That guy's erroneous data. So as a result, we can't really look at those. Boo! It says boo. Let's see what the heck that sell signal was. Axon Enterprise. Remember we looked at this last week. I was a bit surprised by that. It did perk up a bit, but gee whiz, it does. I mean, to be perfectly honest with you, it does kind of look like a short if you look at the price charts. Having said that, I'm not really too familiar with about that company, to be honest with you. AXON. There it is. Yeah, back up at the top end of his range. I think we were looking weekly commodity trend surveys. Yeah, you can see that when the engine updates with this newest weekly data, where did my mouse go? There it is. You can see the fast is actually crossed back above the slow. So this will go back down to probably not a good idea to go and chase this thing. Just sort of avoid, if you will. I did have a nice bullish engulfing bar there on this name in particular, which sort of stopped the slide there. So there was a bit of a warning. I have to get a beverage. Hold on a second. Maybe I'll just have some water. There we go. Just wet my whistle. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I've got a little bit of cream to put in my coffee. And of course, you get to watch me do that. Wonderful. And let's get back to work. So I'm not necessarily going to tout this as a buy or a sell here. Probably if it double tops, then it would be. But does anybody at TRA even know what Axon Enterprises does or the fundamentals around this? Not really. And I don't really think there's a trade there. No setups actually really developed. So, back to our conversation about the dashboard. Where'd the dashboard go? It's around here somewhere. There we are. Hmm. All right. Actually, interesting to see we have quite a few names that are spitting out attractives on crypto. So that usually means that we're coming back down to earth. Ton, for example, these are the last updated prices. These all might change with today. But you can see this last price 302, 52-week highs, 8.25 low, 238. So your 50% level is quite a bit higher than that previous price. Yeah, 13 EMA lower than the 30-week SMA. So as a result, no like, oh my goodness, this thing's trending. Just sort of like, it looks like it's cheap relative to its 50% level. And my hunch is that's probably what it looks like if we pull up the chart. Let's see what we got. Where's good old Ton? There it is. We'll look at it on Binance. Yeah, that makes sense. So you can see moving averages fast is below slow, so you're not going to get a trending signal, but you get attractive just simply because it is near the bottom end of its range, 50% level sitting up in this area. This cute little bottom trying to form here. Nothing really solid yet, though. I suppose if we did get a close back above here, that would give us a nice double bottom, but I think we still got to probably do some sideways work here before we can get going in earnest. And, the thing is with the broader cryptos, things, all you guys like to trade, I'm a little concerned that, things like Bitcoin still expensive. In fact, actually, look at that, even at 94. 50% level sitting at 79 right now. Ay caramba. So here we are running back up and testing the highs. I suppose when we get to the price chart, it'll make sense. Big fat round numbers, Fibonacci levels, all that kind of talk. We'll get to that in a bit. But yeah, I'm a bit concerned here. Don't like avoid readings. That scares me. Let's see. So we'll probably put the stocks away for now. I don't think I'm going to do too in-depth of a broadcast here today, simply because we are technology challenged. And as I said, I'm recording this. Can't even do a live broadcast today. Not a bad idea. Maybe just touch base with the January barometer. Of course, I had this all nice and drawn up, but I lost my charts earlier today. Yeah, well, that's the way it goes. Here is a zoomed in sort of, you are here now kind of image. I think that sort of puts us over here, where you can see we were crashing lower. We had a nice dead cat bounce. And I think this is where we are right now on sort of the entire January barometer study. If we go an M out here, then that means we probably have to come back down against these lows here. Fingers crossed, we just bump along and keep working our way higher. I have been hearing a lot of sort of talk from, Donald trying to exert his authority around the world, although I get the impression that Donnie has set a precedent here around the world that nobody really has any sort of respect for the system anymore. Um, Donnie's just basically blown holes through sort of all the ethics and morals that sort of was the reason why the United States of America was looked at around the world as a positive influence and sort of a role model. And I think the rest of the world is like, fuck you, USA, you don't really mean anything anymore. And Donnie's basically giving the world the finger. So, not a big surprise. The world's giving the United States of America the finger right back. Having said that, who knows how any of this international war stuff is going to play itself out? A little concerning. Nuclear nations are basically getting into jousting matches. This might get out of control, but we'll see. Anyway, on balance, it does look like the market itself probably talk with Basant and China. And I do understand the powers that be trying to sort of level the playing field with regard to China being at the on one hand an emerging market, which means it needs to have its currency pegged, which means it needs to have special trade treatment, and no sort of competition. Um, and then on the exact opposite side, the damn country's the second largest economy in the world right now. Does it really need that favorable status? Is it fair to the rest of the trading world that it has this favorable status? And frankly speaking, I actually agree with the Americans that China should not have any special treatment in the world. So, anyway, I do believe that that's what they're trying to do is sort of level the playing field. And if the market actually believes that that's the case, and just business is business, and if we can move on from this and quit pissing people off around the world and just sort of get back to business with maybe a little bit more of a level playing field, and we kind of put this stuff in the rearview mirror, then yeah, I could very easily see a very, very big rally here in both equity and debt instruments and also crypto. And of course, our long term cycle in crypto, we are looking for a pretty substantial move higher here. At least I am. I don't know whether anybody else in our community is. I know a huge portion of the community turned just insanely bearish of crypto through this window here, which to me was, I think, a little bit, I don't know. I'm not quite sure what the term is. I just don't think it was correct. And unfortunately, I think now they're actually getting punished for that bearishness. And remember, the market's job. The market's job is to inflict as much pain on as many people as much of the time as possible. So the fact that the public and a lot of relatively new people to the market were turning bearish of crypto, well, what's the market's job? Market's to basically to turn them around and get them to buy. So how the hell do you do that? Well, just get that price up. Man, I'm starting to hear people now, changing their tone, saying, "Oh no, no, crypto's going to the moon" and all that kind of talk. So, once we get everybody all back long again, and people sold up here, and then they were all okay, fine, I'll go and buy it back where I sold it. Odds are we probably have to back off a bit. So you can definitely see just on this little weekly picture here, we are getting up into short trade location again. Interesting too, candle body highs for trade location. We're basically sitting right at that level right now off of this chart. Keep in mind too, this was a V top. If we look at the daily chart, I think we can see that a little clearer, which is, we'll look at this one. Actually, oh, this is a weekly chart. We'll use this. Recently, because that was a V top, and of course, nice big fat wick, a whole bunch of trap bulls up in there. And long and short of it here, we're going through the process of releasing those trap bulls, and of course, getting everybody probably to establish new positions. And of course, if we go on wick out again, start breaking back down, you're gonna have a whole bunch of new trap bears, or bulls, I guess. Um, reload zones, 96 all the way up to 1018. I really wouldn't have a problem if somebody had said that they let some Bitcoin go here at about 100 G's or thereabouts. I really wouldn't have a problem with that. Having said that, there's no real outright sell signals here on the daily charts just yet, or excuse me, on the weekly charts just yet. We're still pushing up, and we're pushing up into this topping zone, and our institutional fingerprints. You can actually see where the institutions put the top in the market previously. And all we're doing is we're just going back up and exploring that area. In fact, I think there's some people on TRI that really like to trade 88.6s. I wouldn't be surprised if that was a pretty good trade location. 104.985 is our high, 105.375. So we could probably play around with this level here a little bit. No, as I said, there is no outright sell signal here. Market's still pressing up, and you just have to be patient and disciplined and wait for whatever the top may be. I did have a lower time frame chart that I think summarized what I saw happening in the market really nicely, and I think this is it here. This is Bitcoin versus Tethers over there on Binance. here is that rally. You can see the moving averages crossed. Interesting how they cross bullish, then cross bearish, then cross back bullish, and they've sat bullish here now. What is that? Oh, geez, about a month or so, eh? Straight up. Me personally, I was expecting and hoping that we would bottom on my birthday. And then we could set the base and let's start rocking and rolling. The fact that we cranked up higher here off of basically a V bottom, new clothesline low here, we all know, and this is going back to that weekly chart. V tops like to be tested. Well, V bottoms like to be tested too. So my hunch is now I don't know whether it's after this seasonal rally and 4-year cycle pivot. But long and short of it here is I can pretty much guarantee you that we will be trading back down into this 70 some odd thousand level here some point down the road. Now back to our futures chart. This chart actually interested me a lot because I'm a big fan of these trend lines. And you notice that this trend line is a cheeky one. They're projected off of these highs. And if anything, this is a great example where what was once resistance is resistance once again. And you can kind of see here how this almost looks like a shoulder, head, neckline. Do we do a shoulder here? And then break out, something like this, and then woo, up we go. I could see something like that. Wouldn't surprise me. As well, too, when we look at that weekly chart, have a couple really powerful trend lines at work. Where's that one? This one here again. So previously, this trend line, which was just simply drawn off of these previous peaks, place close. Let's see, somewhere in that area. That acted as well, a little bit of resistance, then support. Oh, we're going to turn into resistance. No, no, back as support. Then we lost the support, and then right back up. And you can even see 2 weeks ago, candle peak was right to that trend line, and then we blasted through it. So to me, that implies that the next trend line on our hit list is a significant resistance, and that is now this one. So we'll put that up to 4. There it is. So this one, and I love this one because it goes way back. This trend line's actually off of the original bottom from the sickness low to that sickness post-sickness high. So this is a pivot low to a pivot high trend line. Very powerful. Love low to high trend lines. You tell me, did the market respect that? Sure looks like it to me. Then we came dumping down in here, and you can see the market tried desperately to hold on to that trend line. Then beautiful 3-bar fractal fail. Down we go. And lo and behold, look where we've ended up here again. So here is that trend line through that rally peak. You remember Gucci sweater wearers? No, was that Gucci sweater? No, I think Gucci sweater wearers is over here. This is what? Donnie and his crazy ass election. The election, of course, happened here. The results, right in here. Big jump up, ran up into these trend lines, and you can see our current trend line that I think is in force. You can see the market oscillated really nicely around it, lost it, and here we are back playing with it again. So my hunch is, for whatever it's worth, this trend line is probably pretty significant resistance, and if anything, what we'd like to see is pop up above it. And our rule at TRI about trend lines, please, Brian, I'm not quite sure if the other principals at TRI follow this or not. But the concept that I like to teach is we can't really call this a breakout until we actually put structure in above that trend line. So this is a bit dangerous here. And I still think, my comment over the past few weeks has just simply been top of the range, bottom end of the range. We are playing range ping pong right now. You can see for a while now, I've been postulating about whether we had a bear ABCD working. Since this market has moved up so much against these previous highs, and for this to be a bot setup, this rally has to stop at 66%. So since that's happened, to all intents and purposes, I mean, we might draw it as a ABCD harmonic thinking about levels going forward, but the bot itself off the table, just doesn't exist anymore. So I suppose we can get rid of that comment as well. So there we are. Moving averages are starting to turn back up bullish. I suppose that's a good sign. It was interesting. You saw that comment that was just on the screen there before. We came within a whisker here of basically losing the trend, and then instantly the market reversed and jumped right back up to recapture that trend, and we're pointing higher again. So, if anything, in that kind of backdrop, what we would really like to see is some nice sideways consolidation to maybe set up a bullish bot, which takes us, of course, up top. And keep in mind, we're thinking about, at least I am, Brian, that our 4-year cycle pivot should come in here sometime September, October this year. Also, too, if we look at the January barometer, you can see by the time we start getting into the end of summer and the beginning of winter, notice something significant happened in traders' eyes that basically bought that huge rally that we all witnessed. Well, you can see it's starting now, but we're probably going to see this play out. And we did see the rally, of course, there through middle of January. You can see something happens here in the market. I don't know what. Obviously, it's not our job to predict the future. But if anything, what we need to do is just acknowledge that if we do have some sort of big move up in the stock market, don't be surprised if we have to take some months to consolidate those gains, which is pretty typical. Let's see. Where should we take the conversation next? Actually, I put out some tweets here recently, and I think they really summarize nicely what I'm thinking in the marketplace. So, first and foremost, this was last week's Bitcoin chart. I don't think there's a heck of a lot that's changed here, other than the fact that now, this prior trend line now is no longer in play. We're now working with this higher trend line. The bot setup that you see outlined here is now off the table. We're rallying up against this trend line here. And of course, candle body highs or trade location 78.6, 88.6. To me, this is actually now starting to paint a very interesting short trade location. So me, myself, I'm going to be watching to see whether we get any divs form and any market structure signals. So actually, if we go back to that other Bitcoin chart, where was that? Yeah, over here. So with that said, we're at another trendline resistance level, 1.618. And actually, I've often called this the no-brainer short trade location for the alt ABCD. And anyone who's traded for a while knows that, we're back up against the original market structure. 1.618, there's 88.6. We're also above value there on the volume profile. And there's that trend line that I just pointed out recently acting as resistance. So, ironically enough, with regard to the parking garage kind of concept, I actually think, believe it or not, we could work our way all the way up to 108 and change. Take a serious run at these highs. I'm just skeptical if there's much left in the tank here. And if we look at the momentum indicators, you notice, of course, our old buddy Willie is quite stupid. So, my rule, whenever I was working with people individually or trading my own accounts or building these school programs years ago and trying to teach you all this concept, whenever Willie gets stupid like this, really, I got no business being a buyer. So Willie officially on these Tether Binance went stupid there as of 25th of April. That was in this area. And so for a guy like me, just because I don't like buying when market is overbought like this, it's just been a hands off. It's also interesting too, is you'll notice on this push to new highs, um, MACD itself is not going to new highs. So there is what we would call, at least I would call, Brian Beamish, a potential divergence. The histogram itself is divergent in that we're not making new highs, but price is. But I don't consider this actually confirmed until this M actually confirms, and that means that we go back below those lows. So what I would say is that the market is overbought. The market is forming a divergence, is potentially divergent right now, and we're just waiting on the confirmation of the divergence. And that in itself will be on to step three. And a setup I've been trading a lot recently in the futures market, which I really, really enjoy, is just simply waiting for location, indicator confirmation. And then the final coup de grace is I just simply ask for two M's in a row on RSI. The first M, of course, you all know my, I don't know, my lectures that I've done repeatedly on YouTube and social media about the RSI model. The way that I use it is the first M in RSI will stop the bull. So we don't even have that first M right now. There really wasn't, there was a little bit one there, but then they quickly went and broke that M. You might even argue this is a very ugly late W. I would not call that a W, but I could understand if someone said yes. So that W, in the face of this first M, this W now stops the bear. So we stop the bull, we stop the bear. Okay, give me another W, and we'll issue a buy signal. We went down and broke down here, and then we went up. So not really any W there, just sort of V bottom, V top. And notice we're just V topping here. So we haven't even made a first M here yet to actually stop the bull. And that's why I really, you heard me earlier say I don't really have any sell signals here per se, but I will say we have one hell of a trade location. But, based on my extension teachings that I've been basically teaching the level one students over the past, I don't know, 10 years or so. We are most definitely in trade location, no doubt about it. But, extensions usually market likes to tag that 200%. So we'll see how this goes. Terrible place to be a buyer as far as I'm concerned. But probably a little bit early to actually even be calling ourselves shorters or sellers. Obviously, if you bought off the bottom, A, B, C, D's, bullish bots, that kind of conversation, well, I would really hope to hear that you are booking profits and paying yourself for your efforts. You'd be surprised how often people just simply can't do that. So, I don't know what your setup was if you did happen to buy here, but I can see plenty of reasons to look for reasonable justifications to let some go. You can see how this went as a W down, up, down, breakout. So that means you can draw Bombs and notice 1.618, 2.618, 3.64. That's David O's midpoint between 2.618 and 4.669. But ultimately, hello, look where we are. 4.669 is just a hair's breadth away. So my hunch is 2.618, 4.669, 2.0 parking garage, 88.6, test of the original highs. Wicks and tails like to be eaten. I get the feeling there's probably some play up in here. If we do break hard, then my hunch here is that we probably find support somewhere between the 13 EMA and the 30 SMA. My hunch is probably close to that 13 EMA. Notice also, too, that would bring us back down into value. But the key there is if we do actually break here, Well, that will confirm things like MACD divergences, which is just yet another step in our slowly evolving market topping pattern here. So, in my humble opinion, terrible place to be a buyer. And probably a little too early for us to be considered shorting. Um, Total market, interesting going on there. Where are we here? Where is my total? Is this total? Yeah, crypto total market. There we go. Also running up against an interesting trend line, although this was based on a clothesline. Let's see if I can just crisp this up a second. It might not be in play. Let's go there, and then we'll go there. Actually, let's even go like this. So there, and there. All right. Yeah. So on the total, all we did was rally back into reload zone. So you can't, ironically enough, I'd even say that the broader crypto market isn't nearly as strong as Bitcoin, which I think makes sense. You know, it's right up at the top end of its range, whereas most of these things are kind of bumping along. Unfortunately, my browser got wiped out there earlier, so I lost all my recent levels here on this chart. So I think what I'll do is I'll just go back to the Twitter page and we'll work off of the chart that I published last night because I think this is more relevant. So here's our total crypto, and you can see up there is your market structure trend line. So I don't see any reason why we can't work our way up here, and also two uptrend lines. I think that's pretty valid up top there. So interesting how those two trend lines have a nice confluence right around that 78.6. I don't think that's a surprise or an accident. Would be also interesting to see where reload zones. I guess you could argue that's basically what this conversation is, these fibs. But notice here, just in the near term, and a really, really good lesson for all sort of new technicians, 38.2s. Usually they need to be traded to. Then we need to sort of resolve, are we going to M out here? And you can even see we tried to M out here. We head faked lower, and then instantly they took the market straight up. That does happen in trading. As I said before, our job's not really to predict the future. Our job is more sort of to identify a whole bunch of criteria that if we see them happen, then ultimately we see that happen. And if that happens, then if we take a trade at a certain level, well, we end up making lots of money because the market moved to where we were thinking it ought to move based on our statistical models. But at the same time, too, you are never going to be right 100% of the time. It's just the way it goes. And quite often, what happens in the market is people make great money when they are predicting correctly, and then all of a sudden, one of their predictions goes wrong, and they can actually end up blowing up their account because they just can't acknowledge the fact that they were wrong. But you have to. And if you really want to be a trader, you have to understand that you will never be right 100% of the time. So, how you act when you are wrong, ironically enough, is actually the determiner whether you're going to make it in this game. So, keep that in mind, folks. Anyway, I see a lot of symmetricality in this chart, and I love symmetricality. In fact, that's the post that I made last night in the lounge. Um, so, if we just simply measure from this peak, it feels as though this is making some sort of big cup pattern. And it's interesting that if we go like left shoulder, neckline, head, neckline, maybe again, notice there was a small peak. I think that corresponds nicely with that peak. Then we pull back and notice, oh boy, man, these pullbacks can be sharp and violent and fast. I get the distinct impression. In fact, you can see they did it a couple times. This one here, look at this peak. It was like 1, 2, 3, all the way right back down against their lows. This is a daily chart. That means that we could very easily see crypto here pull all the way right back down against the lows that we saw there at the end of April and the beginning of May. And by Wednesday, that could easily happen. Of course, there is good old 50% rules. And at any given point in time, we really should expect 50% retracements. Keep us honest, WD GAN. And I suppose you could even argue off of this top, at any given point in time, we should be thinking 38.2 is 50%. So this counter trend rally bounce into this level actually is perfectly normal. So if we think about that symmetricality, and notice, look at this beautiful little head and shoulders. Look how symmetrical it is. It's just like this shoulder here is almost exactly the same distance from the head as this shoulder. I don't think that's an accident. So I'm kind of thinking, and you can see this is 28 days from the ultimate low back up to this peak right here to make that neckline for the left shoulder. Seems logical to me. This should be 28 bars up into this event, which would put us somewhere here, be end of May, beginning of June. And if anything, I kind of like this because I wouldn't be surprised, given somebody's birthday. Market's a little bit soft. Nothing to do with the birthday. It's just typical price action that time of year. Then we go right back up and make a new high, and then we come right back down and test those lows. And really, if this is an inverted head and shoulders, the most important level, ironically enough, that we do not want to see the market break back through is this low right here at what is that, about 700 and I can't even see the number. Let's call it 745, somewhere in that area. We really don't want to see those lows taken out. So notice how we dip back down against that level and then right back up. Ideally, I'd like to see the same thing. And if we think of usually the crypto market, when does it get going? That conversation about sell in May and walk away. Well, I think on balance, I wouldn't be surprised if the market does exactly the same thing. If anything, as I had said to you before, what I was kind of hoping was that we would bottom through my birthday and then set the stage for a base through middle of the end of June, or middle into June, and then start our ratchet higher. The fact that we've actually worked our way back up to overbought, markets going into divergence, not confirmed yet, still potential. Um, that's not the makings of a healthy bull. And if anything, if you go A, B, C, D, we've actually far exceeded sort of dead cat bounce expectations here for the total. And I hate to say it, if you actually look at some of these bigger cryptos, it kind of makes sense. I mean, look at this silly ETH. Um, I pulled one out of my butt. But of course, Brian, he's got a big butt, so I suppose that's par for the course. These still have levels. Remember, I lost my price charts that I did. So if anything, I'm not gonna work off of the price chart. Let's go back over to Twitter. And I produced a really cool ETH chart yesterday. I was actually very, very surprised. This is everything that we teach on the course and on the site. But nonetheless, when it happens, you're always like, holy crap, look at that. Son of a gun, it happened again. Anyway, Donald Trump's idiot sons up there recommending Ethereum, still well off the screen here. And ironically enough, if the price ever does get back to his level that he recommended all of his people to buy, I'll actually be banging out a double. Because you can see my purchase here was right off the 78.6 line in the sand. Absolutely love this level. I live by it. Brian's favorite fib, BFF, line in the sand, whatever you want to call it. These are both some fun names that I've given over the year. But 78.6 is just religion for me. So we came down into this level, and then when I saw it just hovering there, I was like, holy crap, this is what I said I was going to do. I better get in there and do it. And so I bought all the Ethereums that I sold back. So as you can see, huge rally. Hindsight's 2020. Brian looks like a genius. Woohoo! Way to go! Buy my subscription, take my course, and I'll even wear a Gucci sweater while I'm teaching you this term, just to show you that Gucci sweater wearers are not total idiots. No, I'm just being facetious. Anyway, fantastic analogy of waiting for W's on other sides of trend lines. And what's super cool about this is you can actually see there's this bigger W, but I actually think the trade set up off of this cute little W right over here, where we went down, up, down, breakout. And on one candle, we confirmed this W and this W. Holy buy signal, Batman. Had I not been long from 78.6, I should have been buying at, what is that, 1850 or so, somewhere in that neighborhood. But thank heavens, Brian actually followed his plan and he bought where I said I was going to buy originally. Didn't have a buy signal on this. This is just trading levels, and I'm a levels kind of guy. I love levels, and of course, I love that 78.6. If I was looking for the buy signal, to me, ironically enough, it is right in here at about 1850 or so. So, feeling pretty good about how Ethereum has been performing. Don't get me wrong. But, the question you have to ask yourself is this maybe a little too far, a little too fast? Um, this is the daily price chart. There is that down trend line I was speaking to you just there a moment ago. Let's just make sure this is nice and crisp. Boom, boom. Boom, boom. All right, so boom, 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 boom. Nice breakout. Boom, boom. And the only problem here is this got maybe a little overextended, folks. Sure feels like it. I suppose you could argue, although I would prefer that you had waited for that trend line break and then the structure over there. But that is down, up, down, up, down, up, down, breakout. So I wouldn't fault you if you said, "Well, Brian, I really like this W in here." I was willing to take a shot off of there, and sure enough, I got paid. Interesting how you can see obviously trade location 61.8, 78.6. That's a good old reload zone. Brian phrased, geez, I guess about 15 years ago. Um, it was interesting on that other chart I had showed you that we actually sometimes for venture capital call the reload zone the 78.6 to 88.6. So interesting how we did dip into that zone as well. I think probably the most important thing out of this entire chart is we did not break through these lows over here. So still technically higher highs and higher lows defines a bull market. I wouldn't be surprised if 50% levels, 200 period moving average, you can see this basically the POC, right? That red line is the point of control, or what we call the POC. So I get the distinct impression that we're starting to run out of some steam here. And given our crypto breadth indicators looking a little bit toppy, hasn't topped just yet. This is probably a good example where there's no outright short or sell signal in here just yet. We're just coming into natural levels where a resistance battle should commence. So let's just watch and see how this develops. 50% level, 27.49, I think should be a very realistic target. And here, Ethereum on stamp hit a high, 2606. Still got another $150 to go here. And that's kind of like the same thing with Bitcoin. I could see it work a bit higher into its respective levels. No outright short signals yet, but way, way too late to be a buyer. And ironically enough, using this same logic, we could probably draw 38.2 to 50% heading back down. And this should, if this thing really is a bull, this thing should find some support in here. What a big surprise. 13 EMA, 30 SMA is going to come racing up here. These moving averages should act as support. And you probably also heard me say in the past, I like this as a moving average sandwich. So my hunch is, I don't know if it gets all the way down here. This 30 is probably going to work its way up. But I wouldn't be surprised if we have to do something like that. So anyway, keep your eyes peeled. Certainly no justification whatsoever in my eyes to be thinking about buying here whatsoever. Probably a little bit early for us to be calling tops and shorting. So too late to be a buyer, too early to be a seller, in my opinion. All right. Anything else on the Twitter feed that I had mentioned? And I honestly, folks, I think you should all free broadcast. So, take advantage of this information if you can. I think you should all take a screenshot of this and just keep this in your notes. You can get rid of the fact that I have this trade notation on here and things like the bear spot. The most important thing about this entire image is the fact that really this market started trending higher when the W's started coming in on the other side of this trend line. That's a really, really good educational piece for all of you. All right. Talked a little bit about January barometer there. Could we use a bit of a pullback here? I think so. Do we often find the market likes to pivot around my birthday? Yeah, we do see that quite often. This is more stock markety talk. I did find it interesting that lately, even though crypto's been moving up, this is a 1 minute chart. Is probably not a place to do this here. The daily price chart on the ES. Well, interesting. We're gapping violently higher here. I guess we've already started to trade the Sunday session, so that's encouraging. I was starting to wonder whether maybe we're topping out. We did make a higher high here. And if anything, what this kind of looks like to me, I hate to say it, is this looks like a megaphone. So, 1, 2, 3. Uh-oh, that's not good. And then the bottom of the megaphone, since that's 1, I don't even know what we can use. We're going to have to still see a 2 and then a 3 to actually get a buy signal here. So it's interesting that we have, maybe we'll call that 2, 1, 2. I don't know. That's a tough one. I wouldn't be surprised if this has to play around in here for a bit. That really wouldn't surprise me. Kind of tough to justify going and buying that there, especially up against this resistance line. If I, let's put this on all the charts. So let's go sync globally. And we'll go save. All right. So then if we go down to, say, a 4-hour chart, there is that megaphone. I don't know whether this is 1, 2, 3. We remember we saw the gold stock, that American Barrick, do exactly the same pattern, um, although it did go into M out on its third touch. So, 4-hour chart, daily chart. We're still probably way too early to call a top here. If anything, I wouldn't be surprised with this trend line tag the way that it has. If you look at a 30-minute chart, if you start getting any kind of failure signals up here, this is probably going to set up a really nice short because basically that gap needs filling in. So, encouraging to see. To be perfectly honest with you, I haven't really looked at the futures too much in earnest here. Obviously, it's the weekend, but also traveling a bit. So that's encouraging to see. But the problem here is you can't chase that, right? Who in their right mind is going to buy that? If anything, with all of these people in here, that's a whole bunch of trap bulls. So we dump, maybe fill the gap in, rally back up, and trade into that wick to release those trap bulls. And then maybe we can start talking about where we go from there. If we can hold this level, start to put in some sort of structure here and then break up through these highs, that in itself is a massive gap and go. I'd be very surprised if that happened. I do see that Big House is posted in the lounge here. Rumor in the market, U.S. and China will announce a zero tariff deal for both sides tomorrow. If true, this will be giga bullish for global trade and markets. And my hunch is that that's a whole bunch of, if anything, that's almost scary the way the market's gapping up like this. That's a buy the rumor. Now let's see what the actual news is. Does that turn into a sell the news? I hope not. Be careful here, folks. Um, yeah, that's all I can say. I don't like the look of this at all. I'd probably also say, too, if we looked at like a 30-minute chart, is this a divergence? And if it is, does that set up trade location with that megaphone? Let's take a look at our divergence indicator. This is awesome. It usually tells you. No, no. Oh, maybe. Let's see. No, no divergence yet. That's good to see. Notice when we made lower lows here, a whole bunch of bullish divergences started to come in, but nothing yet. So, well, that's encouraging. Looking at that though, gee whiz, does that ever look like a shooting star? Not quite a gravestone doji just yet, but shooting stars in themselves can be bearish as well. Probably if you look at like a 9 minute or something, you'll see them. Actually, we could probably do a Foggenbaum off of this bottom, and it'll paint whatever the upside target is. So boom, da boom, and let's go chaos. And there you go. What a surprise. Totally tagged David's midpoint and then had to back off. Interesting how it basically gapped open to the 2.618. Went shooting up above the trend line and then boom, right back to the trend line. So, if you are interested in trading this on the long side, nice little market structure there would just be awesome. But nothing as of yet. All right. I don't know if there's a heck of a lot else I can add to the equation here. I would say, not a bad idea, especially with TRI's platform. You can always scroll through, see if there's any names that popped up signals. Remember, we had that TON there a few weeks ago. It seems to have firmed up a bit. Doesn't look like we're getting a lot of crypto names here, though. And I have noticed that crypto names are, yeah, I don't know what's the appropriate statement. I get the impression that maybe we've jumped up maybe a little too far too fast here. Suppose we can finish off with a quick boo. You can see down the board a bit of red on the screen here. Suppose that's probably Brian's birthday present for all of you. Some names that I'm interested in. Let's see. Maybe we'll look at a weekly chart. See, yeah, you can see I did a little bit of stink bidding on this one recently. Not a bad looking chart, eh? Wow, look at that. And this is one of the reasons why I actually like the idea that we're going to bottom here and rally into, I don't know, let's say September, October. Is a lot of crypto names look like this. When markets are up top like this, you just got to force yourself to leave it alone. You can see I was working stink bids at things like Berry, BCD levels and got filled. And I've told you this, guys, in the past, and girls and houseplants, that if you actually see market structure come in, 9 times out of 10, you'll look back and you'll go, son of a gun, it came in right off that darn 78.6. So notice 13 EMA in this current candle. If we resolve above this level, it will mean recapturing 78.6, and who knows how high this thing can go back up. I think you could make the argument reload zones to the upside. So this one's like 92 cents all the way up to $1.12. So sitting here at 38 cents, gee whiz, 40 cents right now. Man, there is a lot of money to be made in these markets. If you want to just be patient and disciplined and wait for these moving averages to turn up, yeah, that's the difference between price risk and information risk. Moving averages crossing bullishly obviously is more information that yes, the market is bullish, but you're probably not going to get a very good price to pay, and price might be all the way up here by time that event happens. Well, it's your choice as a trader. All depends on what kind of life you like to lead. A lot of people that I used to work with in the past, they just see levels, kind of like what I showed you with Ethereum and me buying 78.6. And ironically enough, that is the price risk people. This is a fantastic price, and I'm not going to take a lot of risk taking a shot here. But you don't often have a lot of information to work with to actually prove that it's a bull. And really, it's just your years of experience, like Brian says. Well, often when you look back over time, you see the darn market bottomed right off that darn 78.6. So, anyway, it is what it is. Good looking chart, though. That's exactly what I want to see if I want to be a buyer. Right back down against the bottom end of the range. Nice market structure come in. And we could even ask whether there are any divs here or not. I don't think there are. No, nothing really solid div-wise off the weekly charts. Let's see down on the dailies. Off of the dailies, oh yeah, look at that. We had four confirmed divergences. Great indicator confirmation, and you could even argue really cute little fractal bottom there. Nice buy signal on a break at 27.50 on the 7th, 8th of May, and of course, big rally pop. Anybody who actually bought that 27, what did I say the high was? 27.49. Your double there is what, 54, 55, somewhere in that area. And notice there's the 200 period moving average. So I think actually getting a double off of this isn't unrealistic. It just happened to be one name I randomly picked up here. We can look at almost any of them, and I bet, dollars to donuts, a heck of a lot of them look exactly the same. Let's look at this POLIS. I just randomly am picking a name here. If I was doing this live with you guys together, of course, I would be talking about, well, I would be doing AMAs and all that kind of fun stuff, but unfortunately, bandwidth just doesn't permit that. So, PLOLS actually broke to new lows. That is a little bit concerning, but hopefully all can clearly see the W that came in down here. And then we had another W that's come in here. So it's starting to look attractive. You can see I had a stink bid here up at 14. So these are, one of the reasons why I run the little old lady portfolio is, if you have these stink bids working, quite often you see the market, well, that wasn't quite stinky enough. But I feel pretty confident that should our bull get going again, I think there's lots of room to be able to bang out a double. As I said, my charts here lost a bunch of data, and these are like charts. These were updated like back here, so I'm not quite sure what the hell's happened with the computers. Unfortunately, had a bit of a challenging day here. A number of things just went wrong, 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 and wrong. So we're just having to do the video the way that I'm doing it right now with you. Could you argue that, hey, well, now is the time to start seriously stepping in and accumulating this? Sounds good to me. All I care is I just want to buy at the bottom end of the range. You can see all of the indicators here. Well, actually, we got one money flow index confirmed bear div here. Maybe that's played itself out now. I had a few, and actually, price momentum indicators here. This is a volume momentum indicator, but price momentum indicators all went into divergence here. I kind of like this, There's yet another really good looking W. Could this thing take I don't know, a couple weeks here and back off into moving average support? Sure. I think you can make the argument the trend is your friend until it isn't. But that to me kind of looks like the prevailing trend line. I'm not sure if that's the lowest low there, though. There's something like that. Oh, what a great tag there. Could you not maybe work a bid down in this area here and just try and be patient and disciplined and just wait for this kind of move to come back to trendline support? It might take a while, but it's not a bad idea. And remember, I said I'm thinking some sort of trough, you know, middle of June kind of idea. You can kind of see low, 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 maybe another low right around here, middle of June. Seems realistic. In the near term, let's see how high this thing can go. Since this is a double bottom, that means we can do Foggenbombs, which means that gives us some targets. Boosh. Oh, you love when you see that. So, anybody watching this chart in the near term did a Foggenbomb off of that, and you saw the 1.618 tag and you started to fade that level. That's some pretty damn smart thinking. 2.618, ironically enough, will just get us back to my 78.6. And yeah, I have a notice here filled. But that's all I have? Gee whiz, January 10th. That's a bit old. That was right in this area here. Haven't been doing anything, but I suppose I could argue I could always add to this trade. I think I put maybe like 1% of my Kraken stake into this. That's a good looking chart. Very pretty. And actually, a really good example of that saucer bottom kind of thinking. That's usually what market bottoms look like, is saucers. So you can kind of see the saucer developing here. Let's do one more, just randomly. LIT. Let's see what this piece of wonderfulness looks like. Oh yeah, I remember this one. Sold a whole bunch on the way up. Woohoo, you're so smart. Way to go. I was thinking about buying back, but really haven't any sort of technical reason to get too excited. Down and down, up, V bottom. V bottom should be tested. Boosh. Down we go. Test those lows and then break to new lows. Boo. So down, up, down, breakout? Maybe. If you decided to take that trade, it's not. I like this W here. I don't know whether it's on the other side of a trend line or not. Might be. That's an awfully steep downtrend. Holy moly. Wow, that's insane. Yeah, I can't even use that, which kind of sucks because then that means that your prevailing trend is the next market structure. That's over there. That's clearly been broken. You would probably also do another one here to there. Yeah, and that's what I think the market's working with now. So there to there. I don't know. I think I might be a bit skeptical on taking that. And if anything, all we did was we didn't even get back to the trend line. The trend line was confirmed on the break of this low here. So rallied up to trend line, faded back to trend line. We want to see a break above the trend line, kind of like that Ethereum that you saw there a few minutes ago. And then please give us a W, and we know this thing's off to the races. Right now, nah. I would probably say top end of the range. Terrible drawing, I know. Bottom end of the range. So here you can see there's still a bit of risk there. If we have to come back down, probably test this low in earnest, and long and short of it here, it does actually look like this is some sort of bottom. So let's see, that is 3061, and this is 31. So yeah, so down, up, down. Can we break out through that level there? Maybe what would be cool was if we did break out through that level there, kind of like what I've drawn, and then give us a nice W. I think that'll set up a fantastic bullish bot to take us higher. And yet another example. Take a screenshot of this. Really, really good example of the market slowly saucering out. I haven't actually seen a bottom come in yet because that is a new bottom low. Oops. And I could very easily see something along those lines. To me, what I'd love to see here is shoulder, neckline, head, back to neckline, break out through that trend line, pull back. If this is the shoulder, nice consolidation, and away we go. That would be ideal. So that's what, if I was going to add to this one, that's what I would want to be seeing going forward. So we'll see how that goes. I don't know. Let's do one more. In fact, actually, there was one that I had touted earlier that I said, I think this is a really, really good example of a trader's life, and I think it's an excellent anecdote of the current market state. Now, I know everybody and their brother has an opinion about what they think is going to happen with this OMG. I'm not going to comment about the fundamentals. The fundamentals are what the fundamentals are. All I'm going to simply say is, I was very pleased in myself for selling halves on doubles and establishing free trades on our little car carrier here. And the tweet that I even put out was, I'm just going to sit and wait for the spring until I see W start to come in, and I'll get back in there and buy. And gee whiz, look at this bottom here. It's so pretty. So, if anything, this should be a priority for me to get in there and buy some of this stuff down here at about 20, 21 cents. I think that's a buy. Sure looks it. Look at the moving averages. They're so pretty. So buying at the bottom of the range. So location check. Indicator confirmation. We'll just keep it simple, stupid. Let's use our indicator confirmation tool. We got a couple confirms here. We look at Willie. Did Willie get stupid? Yep, Willie got nice and stupid, so that's good. And I suppose the coup de grace is, do we have two W's in a row on RSI? There's one W, boom. And actually, there's even a second W, boom, 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 there. So they all tripped up on this day right here. So whatever this day is here, this is where the buy signal came in. So that high there is 46.76 and 43.51. So it came in that day there. Let's see what that is. That, oh, there we go, is right there. Interesting. I think, to be perfectly blunt with you, and of course, look at that candle. Beautiful outside upside bullish engulfing bar. So, how ironic, our RSI signal basically comes in right on a beautiful candlestick signal. That's not an accident. And then you notice, a day or two later, oh, the moving averages have turned back bullish. So this might be an example like Ethereum where, I've definitely identified a level. I mean, I do like being long this double bottom level. And it looks like I'm a little sloppy. If anything, I'd like to see a nice pullback here in the market. Fill in that gap, fill in that gap, fill in that gap, maybe even fill in these gaps. Who knows? But my hunch here is probably into this level. At that point, we have to ask whether we really are interested in the long side. Maybe we got a nice fractal or something. Notice this cute little doji inside bar, candle bodies, highs and lows. And then, of course, everybody knows what the name of this two-bar pattern is, so I don't need to remind you, but a very, very powerful trade signal, and which actually confirms on a break of this high of 27,241. And you can see chung, 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 up we go. So, not really a big surprise, but an excellent anecdote that I had said when I did, and I even put tweets out. If I had more bandwidth, I'd show you. But I even put tweets out simply saying, as soon as we get to the summer, I'll be thinking about buying this stuff back. And guess what? Here we are, folks. So there, probably the best image to end this video on. I often have these conversations with you people, and I'm sure you probably know the answer, especially anybody who has worked with me over a long period of time. Um, this is the only business when stuff goes on sale, nobody wants to buy. But also, too, considering what we're expecting for the remainder of the year, I certainly have no interest whatsoever on being bearish of this kind of name. Here? That's crazy. Here? That's Gucci sweater wears, and it makes perfect sense. Here? This is where the public is not interested. They have no interest in this whatsoever. And yet I might argue you're getting one hell of a buy signal through that high right there. So what is that? Looks like it's 27,879. So there you go, folks. Yet another anecdote. Really do not want to be thinking short in crypto here. Don't even really want to be thinking short in the stock market for that matter. You all know what that January barometer looks like. Do you really want to be short in the face of this? You're asking for trouble. And, same thing here. You really want to short here? What are you, crazy? I mean, ironically enough, keep a simple stupid number. We should be thinking, what is a 50% rule? WD can. Very first technical rule I ever learned as a trader. And quite literally, at 21, 50% level is twice what the current price is. And this is the natural bounce level. And this is not even assuming that there's even a bull market here, because this is a trading range. Ironically enough, we could get a rally up here. If I bought some down here, I'd sell here, establish that risk-free trade, and the thing might just sit there and do nothing for the next couple of years. You don't know. or it might just go absolutely crazy. But you've established a risk-free trade. You're playing with the market's money, which is absolutely the best possible position of strength to be in, and you're just laughing and all right, take the damn thing higher. You double it again up to 80, 90 cents, I'll let you have some more, right? And that's the way that I play the market. Very low stress, keep it simple, stupid. But the hardest part about all of this is you have to force yourself when you've come back down against the bottom end of the range. You have to force yourself to get back in there and be accumulating. All right, I think I'll leave the broadcast at that. My apologies. Kind of an odd past day or two for the birthday boys here today, but we're gonna go and have a nice barbecue dinner. So wish us luck, and hopefully I'll have this video up on the site here sooner rather than later. All right, have yourselves a great day, everybody. PMA for the win. Slow and steady wins a race. Don't take no win nickels. Remember what your number one job is. I suppose we should probably give a shout out, although I don't really see it here. Let's see if this is updated. The team was telling me that the school program is starting here relatively soon for the spring term. Let's see. Maybe it's on one of the basic pages. Um, but there should be a banner on the site that helps you if you are interested in joining, makes it easy for you to sign up. I don't see that now. Maybe the team took it down because I think we're getting the level one sort of as full as we possibly can before we launch it. And Julian was asking for a little bit more time because he's doing the emails himself this term. So, if anything, watch for the banner up here to sign up. School program probably starts in the next week or two. Level threes, we're going to take the term off this week just because the numbers are relatively low, or this term. And I'm going to be working away on automating the education program a little bit more, and concentrating more on the dashboard and the bread signals and that kind of information going forward. So. Okay, everybody, have yourselves a great day. PMA for the win. All the best. And the only thing left for Brian to say to you, good people, is bye.